And of course, observe externally. If people are criticizing you, if you feel that somebody said something negatively, don't take it personally. Look at it from that person's perspective and maybe take the value from what they said and focus on growing, not focus on feeling like a victim that
Right.
that person said that and they shouldn't have said it. That's their problem. You fix yourself. You think about your own internal balance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 11 of Speak with GRV. My name is Gaurav Singh, and I am the host of the show. So, who do we have as the guest on the show today? Well, we have the famous author, Shobha Nihalani, ma'am. Ma'am has over 25 years of experience when it comes to writing. She is currently working as a coach, a consultant, a writing guide, and as a ghostwriter. But all that was not so easy for her. Growing up as a child, she always wanted to be an author. But because she got married in her early 20s, the family became her first priority. She has lived in countries around Asia, Africa, North America, and Europe. And after her marriage, got settled in Hong Kong. After that, she took up writing as a freelance work, but always had that burning desire to write something more. And that is when eventually she wrote her first book, Karmic Blues, that was also published and translated in Denmark. During this conversation with ma'am, we have talked on several topics like what does it take to be an author? What are the different rituals that an author follows? What is the different mindset? How do you select a genre? How do you develop a character? Apart from that, ma'am has also published books on mental health, on self esteem, and we have deep conversation about those topics in this conversation. I really hope you like it, and if you do, please do let us know in the comment section. So let's begin the conversation. Speak with GRV in conversation with Shobha Nihalani. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak with GRV. Today, we have another special guest with us. We have Shobha Nihalani, ma'am. Now, ma'am has more than 25 years of experience when it comes to writing. She's a ghostwriter, an author, and also a consultant. And there are a lot of achievements that ma'am has, which we have already showed you in the introduction. So, first of all, let's get to the interview where we will talk about her writing journey, what goes inside the mind of an author when he or she is writing a book, and much more. So, ma'am, my first question would be, how are you doing today?
Very well, and thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me today to talk about my journey and to talk about writing. This is a great platform, and I appreciate it, and I'm very happy to be here. So today I'm feeling very excited about about talking about writing and the different ways that I have changed because of my journey.
Right.
So I'm happy to share with you through the 25 plus, I think almost 30 years of writing journey that I've experienced in different areas of writing.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, my first question would be, how did you get into writing? How did you discover that this is something that I would make a career out of?
It's interesting how it happened. The point is that I've always loved books. I've always been a passionate reader and very imaginative, very curious about even geography, history, anything to do with culture and people. So I think that curiosity blending with my interest in reading has developed this sense that I want to put my own stories out there. I want to create my own world of my imagination. So it was a journey that started from a very young age. I, of course, ignored it along the way. But then later on, I couldn't ignore it. And I then took up some online writing courses. And then side by side, I was getting married, I had my children, and I still did my, continue to study to learn the craft of writing, because it was so important to me to understand how writing can be developed from, say, a perspective of nonfiction, or for writing for newspapers, or writing short stories. So all of that I needed to understand, and how to do it, or what direction I wanted to go in terms of those kinds of writing in the genres.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, you spoke about the word genre. So whenever, for example, normally when I am searching for a movie on Netflix, we'll see through, we'll search the genre: thriller, horror, romantic, psychological thriller. So as a writer, let's say once you decided you want to become a writer, now
Mm.
there is something called as a micro niche also. Okay, maybe this is the genre that I'll pick and I'll start writing in this. So for you, do you have any preferred genre, or how do you decide which one to pick up and start writing on it?
Therefore, I was inclined to write in those genre, in that particular genre, the adventure, fantasy, thriller, suspense, all of that, psychological thriller. And I loved it. I loved the process. It was just me. I just enjoyed it. But then I sort of moved to a different stage in my life where I started reading more nonfiction. So therefore, my how would you say, the consumption, the what I consumed more was more real life stories, more about people's struggles and how they experience life and how they overcome their struggles. So those stories started to fascinate me. So then I became more interested in sharing about people who achieved so much in their lives and went through a lot of struggle. So those kinds of stories were very interesting to me. And then again, I shifted genre to self-help because I've always been curious about the human mind and why we do what we do. So then again, my journey moved me to the self-help field. So it's like in every field, in every stage of my life, I've enjoyed that journey, being in that genre.
Ma'am, there's a saying that it's not the story but the storytelling that readers or viewers actually enjoy. So when you sit down to write, like, do you follow any rituals that while I'm telling the story, this is the character that needs to be developed more, where you have to add the details, where you have to go it at a surface level. So how does that come?
So you always start with a blank page. So the way I work is I love characters, unique characters. So I build my story around those kinds of characters. And from there, I explore situations where my characters experience conflicts or experience challenges, and then the story grows from there. So, in terms of how to balance everything, it's the best thing to do is to write the first draft, which is completely rough,
Mm.
and obviously there'll be a lot of gaps and holes in the draft. Then you actually go back and reread it. Rereading it will help you see where the gaps are and what you have to add or delete. And then reading it again. So it's rereading it, rewriting it a few times actually polishes the material that you want to deliver. It brings more clarity to the chapters. It brings more understanding how you want to connect with the reader and what the reader will get from the particular story. So it's partly you have to first write it from your own perspective, then you have to read it from the reader's perspective and see how to make it better.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am,
Mm.
when I was studying about like how the rituals that authors prefer, so one incident that I'd read was that J.K. Rowling, she used to go to, let's say, a restaurant, a McDonald's, to actually write her books. So in
Mm.
your case, do you prefer any particular time or place in order to write? Because you need that peace of mind when you're working on some aspect of a story.
You're right. I do need that peace of mind and more ambient noise. So that's why I can't put music on or have the TV in the background because I can't focus.
Right.
For me to be able to write, it requires a space, a physical space which is comfortable,
Right.
and it can be in my own home. Um, and a mind space which says, okay, I've completed the duties of the day. So I'm a homemaker as well. So I like to make sure my family is comfortable, or, I've planned out the menu for the day, or I've done my marketing and all that. So I know that everything's organized. Then I can sit for a few hours and just write. Then my mind space, physical space is comfortable and I can write.
Right, ma'am. In your case, you're a professional author, and because you have gone through so many iterations of writing a novel, writing a content, that maybe you have got certain, let's say, these are the things I'll follow, and I know I'll finish it off. Let's say for
Mm.
somebody, a lot of people have this quest of writing, but when they sit down to write, they're not getting the ideas, or they're very stuck. They'll write, let's say, one paragraph and then they would actually forget. So they want to write, but are actually not getting that momentum or do not know where to start. So any suggestion or any advice that you would like to give to them?
So first of all, you understand what it is. What is writing to you first? If it is to share a story and you want people to read your story, then what you need to do is be consistent. You have to create a writing habit.
Yes, ma'am.
So for people who want to start out in the writing space, they must have create a habit, and even a 15-minute a day habit can uh, encourage you to write, say, even 200 words a day. And from there, your story will develop and you'll be moving forward. But if you skip a day and you say, no, I want to do something else, or I'm not interested, then that interest will just go. It won't be consistent. So whether you are in a good mood or in a bad mood, I always say that good mood, bad day, whatever, be at your desk, be at your laptop for those 15 minutes that you have assigned for writing. So even if you don't have ideas, you can look at what you have written and maybe rewrite that. And if you have ideas, then jot them down. But don't miss those 15 minutes. Just show up. Even if you write one sentence, at least you showed up for the day. So
Exactly.
the habit is very important. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And the main issue that actually comes nowadays is in forming that habit. Now, if you see, we are living in the world of, let's say, Instagram and YouTube Shorts, where the attention span is going down by down. And if you also
Mm,
see, when it comes to, for example, reading a book, there are a lot of people who would still prefer a hard bind book. They like the smell of the book and want to actually read through.
mm,
But then we also
mm.
have options like Audible and Pocket FM and Cuckoo FM, where they have even made reading technology friendly. So, what is your take on this? Do you think the conventional approach of reading a book is still, holds more value, or with technology, the change has to be there?
Words. So there is that change and we have to evolve with it. So personally, I enjoy reading a paperback. I like to hold a book in my hand, and I do enjoy reading that. And I also have a Kindle, so I will read books on a Kindle. I also at times listen to audiobooks, but mostly I prefer to have actually a paperback.
Yes. I'm talking about your first novel, Karmic Blues, that was also published in Denmark. So, can you tell us more about that? What was
It
it?
was it was an interesting story because I've always been fascinated by Mirabai's story, and I felt that she was a princess who was living in a time where she had to follow conventions and the conditions and the norms of being a princess, and yet she actually broke all the rules and was mingling with the other people, with the ordinary people, and I found that quite unique for a person from that century, when the many centuries ago. So I actually used her story and weaved it with a modern day
Okay.
character who experienced this kind of conditioning in her life in modern day, but admired Mirabai for stepping out of her comfort zone and challenging the society's norms, and yet doing what she loved to do, her passion. So this particular character in the modern day challenged that and went out into the world and did her own thing. So it sort of weaved the two stories together. And I think that's what probably the cultural aspect, the journey into India, different cities in India, that whole beauty and the historical beauty and the geography is what I brought out in the book. And I think that's what the Danish people and the Danish publisher really liked about the storyline. So then he took it on and had it translated. So it was a fabulous experience.
Yes, ma'am. I will definitely give it a read, and we will also, leave the link of it in the description so that the viewers can also, give it a read. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
the writing styles. Is there any particular author that you like to follow, and you like have been inspired from them, that this is something I want to adopt?
Well, I look at books as people. They have character, they have a unique way of expression. So for me, no particular book has been something that's consistent that I'll say, okay, I've had this for 20 years and I've been looking at it for 20 years. No, it's like with the times, I look at different books, I read different books just to understand the trend, the different ways of writing, the structures, how different authors present their perspectives, because it could be the same thing packaged differently. You can write a romance and you can share a romantic story in so many different ways. So it's just learning and seeing how the author presents their storyline. So I'm not specific in like I don't hold specific authors, you know, to me, to my bookshelf. I'm not very I don't have a favorite, which is better to say that. I just don't have a favorite, but I love the way the authors express themselves. When I like that book, I'll reread it. I will make notes from it. But that's it. Then I move on to my next book and read another book.
Right, ma'am. And when they say, when let's say you have read a book once, you're reading it twice, then more details actually start coming in. Something that you did not
Exactly.
notice for the first time. It happens even in
Yes,
movies also. I'm talking
correct.
another book also, which I think about which you had shared a post, which is Reboot, Reflect, and Revive. Tell us about that, because I think that relates more to the, I think, modern era and what is happening around us.
Yes. So it's actually self-esteem in a selfie world. So self-esteem is something that is so vital to our ability to face the world, to interact with people, to be able to get successful in our career path, to be human, to be able to pursue our personal goals. Now, in our sense, if we have low self-esteem, we are always feeling afraid because we are fearful of people's judgments. We want to people please. We want to fit in rather than stand out. We tend to compare ourselves to others, and more so, this has come to the surface because of social media. So when you are on social media, you're going to look at somebody else's life and you say, oh, their life is better than mine. So this book that came about when I wrote it, I did a lot of research. I read a lot of books on self-esteem because I'm not a professional in mental health professional. So I had to read and learn from others. And I interviewed a lot of psychologists and coaches, and they shared the value and the importance of self-esteem. And then I interviewed a lot of people who experienced low self esteem, whether it was a result of their childhood conditioning, bullying in school, body shaming issues, imposter syndrome. There was a whole lot that linked back to self esteem. Having a healthy self esteem, you can make many choices, decisions in life. You can be more confident. So, confidence and self confidence and self esteem is two different things.
Right.
So if you read my book, you'll understand more about it. So in this day and age, self-esteem is a vital personality trait as well as important for mental health, mental fitness. So
Yeah.
this book came about when around the COVID times, 2020, and Sage actually liked the storyline, and then they said that to make it not just about social media issues, but to cover a broad spectrum of areas in our lives, that is affected by low self-esteem. So that's why I was very deeply invested in learning about it more, because I also have experienced self-esteem issues and realized that a lot of my choices and decisions in life came from having low self-esteem.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
So
since
this
you've
book
taken
really
this,
was very good.
yes, ma'am, topic of self-esteem, so my
Yeah.
follow-up question would be, so how does it basically get affected and how it is getting affected right now in this, let's say, where we are more affected by the virtual world? And what
Mm.
can an individual do in order to make sure that they are, following the right direction in order to build that strong self-esteem and not feel actually, let's say, influenced by what's happening outside?
So the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep at night, you are constantly talking to yourself, your internal chatter, your mental conversation with yourself. First of all, you have to be aware of that, because we all have inner critics. We all have a mechanism within ourselves where we will always put our own selves down. We judge ourselves, like negatively. So, first of all, be aware of that inner critic. So, that inner critic shows up even if you're on social media, and that inner critic will say, look, you're so ugly, that person is so beautiful, or you've done nothing in your life, that person is so successful. So it's
Right.
your inner critic talking. So
Right.
what you need to do is address the inner critic with a question. Why do you think I'm not successful? I've done this, I've accomplished this. So focus on your achievements, focus on what you have accomplished. Don't focus on what you've not achieved. Once you focus on what you have achieved, you create that energy in your mind that you can achieve more. You have the skill set, you have the experience, and you can do more. So always observe how you are talking to yourself.
Yeah. I think the point that you mentioned, that the world is not always a positive place. So that is, I think, the
Mm,
unique element, because normally people would say you just focus on the positive, try to think positive, but this is not how the world is. So that reality check also needs to be there, I think. And
correct.
when we talk about self-esteem, one thing that is, we can say strongly related to it is the mental health aspect also, and
Mm,
which I think has become more prominent after the COVID came in. So, for example,
right.
now, for example, the good example of technology is we are able to connect through it and talk to it. But when COVID happened and people were continuously connected virtually, they actually
Mm-hmm,
forgot how the physical connection would be there, and
mm-hmm.
long working hours, toxic environment actually led to that concept of mental health. So out of your experience, do you suggest anything that people can do in order to actually counter this, the mental health aspect?
The best thing is to also look at your environment, because often we say, oh,
Yeah.
we have to adjust to our environment. No doubt the environment will put pressure on you. You see the same person every day, and that person is constantly being negative. Naturally, you will feel also your energy is low. So the way to do it is actually to even find an environment. Okay, you're living in a toxic environment, for example. Find another environment that gives you a sense of joy. Like,
Right.
say, join maybe a singing class or a music class or painting. Do
Right.
something where you find other people doing similar activities and you can join in that activity, so that you feel better about yourself and you feel better with that kind of group of people. Because honestly, as humans, we are social animals. We can't live in a silo. We can't be on our own all the time and expect to be happy. We need a community spirit. We need the joy of doing things with other people. So find something that you're interested in, whether it's a hobby or a sport or an athletic activity. Do something that's also makes you physically active, because physical activity also shows makes you mentally happy also. So that's part of the neuroscience studies. So do something that uh, proactively find somebody or find a group of people and change your life, because if you feel stuck, you're not a tree, you can move.
Ma'am, I think that's a wonderful advice. And talking about the joy, so ma'am, in your case, when you are not working, so how do you relax and let's say chill to take time off?
Yeah, I love to go for long walks in nature because that really also helps me allow my mind to wander. It's kind of a meditative activity, so I like to do that. I also spend a lot of time with family, with friends. We socialize, have a good laugh, spend time together, watch some TV. And of course, reading is always there because I'll have a book by my bedside, or I'll have a book while I'm having my breakfast or reading a lot of stuff. So that is what keeps me happy also.
Right.
And I've also joined some groups like the Toastmasters, being a part of that community in public speaking, learning, developing myself, being involved in an organization also. It's a great way to have that community spirit and to learn from others because they are from different backgrounds, different cultures, different age groups. So you can learn from others as well. So that's what keeps me happy and going.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I was actually about to say this that, apart from being, let's say, an established author, you're also a very good speaker. I think the
Thank
conversation
you.
that we have had for this much time, I was also, almost as mesmerized, I would say, the way you have been speaking. So, ma'am, my
Thank you.
few questions would be one advice that you would like to give to somebody who's looking to make a career in writing.
Mm. Okay, so we've heard a lot about AI involvement.
Yes,
Okay, I have to tell you that it is both very useful,
yes, ma'am.
but it's also can make you lazy. So when you are going to pursue a path in writing, then make it more personalized. It is your unique self that you're sharing with the world. So don't lose that essence of who you are. Make sure that you are writing from your own authentic self. Means be honest with what you are, who you are, and then write from that space.
Right.
And then, if you want technical details, do your research, do everything else. But the way you write, the way you present yourself, it has to be this particular unique self that you are.
Exactly. I think this is a very valid point, especially after coming off Chat GPT, because
Yeah,
it is being predicted that it will almost replace content creators, authors, bloggers. But as you mentioned, if
absolutely.
you do your
Yeah,
research well, you create that unique content, then I think you would be able to stand. And ma'am, my
yeah.
last question for the day would be, so let's say tomorrow, if a movie is to be made on your life, what title would you give it?
That's a very good question. And it's interesting that you asked that. I would say Adventures of a Curious Writer. That would be the that would cover all my writing journey, the different countries I've lived in, the different hats I wear. I think that would pretty much cover it.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a very good title. And someday I think it will happen too, that somebody will come and would want to make a movie out of it. So, ma'am, with this, we come to the end of this conversation, I'll say. And it was really, really amazing talking to you. I think not only we talked about in terms of the writing aspects, but the point that you touched about self-esteem and mental health, and how can one, even after the technology is coming, how can one stand through their work? That is also something which was important, and I think would add value to anybody who's listening. So I'll once again say thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you. I enjoyed chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me